Welcome to the Mystic Access Podcast, where the magic is in learning.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the May 4th episode of the Mystic Access Podcast. For all you Star Wars fans, May the 4th be with you.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about some announcement, but we're going to first announce May's class. Yes, we have May's class as a thing.
Alrighty. We're doing good this month.
We are. We're going to talk about live event or virtual event planning. And the reason for that may come when we continue on with this episode.
Yes, but basically, you certainly can do it without sight, but you probably will want some sight assistance. Otherwise, you could be buying something that you think is one thing and it might not be. Some sight assistance is a very nice thing to have, but we're going to give you some resources. We're going to have conversations about how to plan efficiently and how to get things done in the most smooth and also in the most organized way that you can. So it's going to differ a little depending on your event, but some of the main steps will certainly be the same no matter what you are planning. So it's going to be kind of an unusual class and hopefully a lot of fun. We would love to have you come and hang out and learn some of the tips and tricks that can make planning a virtual or live event possible and easier. I wouldn't say easy or stress-free, but certainly easier.
And this will be on May 27th at our normal time of 8:30 p.m. And we will send out the information on the events list closer to the time. However, if you received the event information in April, it is going to be the same. So as we stated in a previous podcast, that Zoom information moving forward for the virtual events will always be the same. We decided there's no point in generating a meeting just for that event, so it makes it easier on everybody's end.
Absolutely. So now you can hopefully join our events with even greater ease, particularly if you don't go to a lot of Zoom events, but you attend ours regularly. We should be in your Zoom history. So that makes it a little easier to find us and join us.
The next thing we wanted to talk about really quickly is the coupon code for the month of May, which is spring.
Spring, because spring is springing everywhere. At least it is down here. It's getting really beautiful. It took spring a while to figure out whether or not she was actually coming to stay or not. So it's finally spring, and we're happy to share this spring love with you guys with 10% off.
Yes, and it's 10% off of almost everything. The
Yep.
products that are excluded are the blind shell and the Evo, because under contract with our partners, we are not allowed to discount those products. Anything else is 10% off.
Yep, and that will end on June 1st. So you've got the whole month of May to utilize that coupon.
So, as everybody knows, that we're in the middle or hopefully closer to the end of this COVID-19 pandemic. And Kim and I just wanted to share our stories about getting vaccinated. I'm currently with my first shot of the vaccine, and I wanted to talk a little bit about how I did it, and I thought it was kind of cool.
So you got Moderna,
I did.
and how did you plan to get your vax?
Well, first of all, I went on the New York State vaccination website, and this was in the beginning of April, probably. Yeah, it was about the beginning of April, I think, when I did it. And it was a challenge because every time I found one of the dates, it promptly disappeared before I could schedule my appointment. And I was trying to get an appointment sooner rather than later. And the first appointment I got was May 16th. And I decided that that was too far away. So late one morning, I canceled that appointment and I got another appointment for May 1st.
So how accessible was this process? I know you said dates kept disappearing. What was the accessibility like?
It was very accessible. I was quite proud of New York State. And the dates were disappearing because somebody was on the website the same as me and they were trying to schedule their appointments. You had to do it really, really fast, and you had to do it. I kind of learned what to press, when to press, and how to press it in order to get the dates. And technically, the first one I got was in Rochester. And I'm thinking, I don't really want to go all the way to Rochester to get vaccinated, and that's twice. So that would mean jumping in an Uber, going to the train station, taking a train from Buffalo to Rochester. I would have done it, but it wasn't my first thing because there were no vaccinations available in Buffalo at the time. It was quite intense. The one I got on May 16th was at the University of Buffalo. It was a state-run vaccination place. And again, that was easy to set up. And I got to thinking, okay, well, that's fine. I can go to UB. It's not too far away. It's about 15 minutes, if that, on a bus. So it would take 15 minutes to get there on a bus. I'd get my vaccination. I'd wait, and I'd come home, and everybody would be happy. Now, late one night, Kim and I pulled an all-nighter to get a super secret project done. And it was about 5 o'clock in the morning. We were pulling this all-nighter, and I thought, okay, well, I've got this one on May 1st. It's not too far away. But let's see what else I can find. So I went to Rite Aid, and I found an appointment that was 4 blocks, count them, 4 blocks from my house, which was the ideal solution. Just walk there. 5 minutes later, you walk home, you're done. So what had happened is Kim and I are looking for IRA rigs to have our phones on lanyards so they're hands-free. And I was testing with IRA because I have been to this Rite Aid thousands of times. And my only real issue with the Rite Aid is when I'm in there, because at the 900th time that I was there, they finally decided to change the store around. So it was always a little difficult to get to the pharmacy, which is where the vaccinations were. And I would always have somebody help me, a customer or whatever. People are really nice when you go in, and they really want to help out. So I decided to test this IRA thing to see how it would work. And I'm walking down the street talking to this IRA agent, and for whatever reason, either I got disconnected, the headset got disconnected, or whatever happened. So I pulled out the phone. I'm standing in the street, not in the street, but on the sidewalk. And I thought, okay, I know how to get there. Who cares, right? So I know how to get there. So I take the phone and I stuff the phone back into this waterproof little sack thing that we have, right? And I'm walking down the street. I cross the street. And then finally, about 5 minutes later, when I'm standing in front of the Rite Aid on the corner, I hear this voice coming from my chest. I don't know if you can hear me, but according to your GPS, you're on this corner facing this direction on this side of the street. I was like, that's cool. And the voice said that the Rite Aid, if my GPS was to be trusted, was exactly where she said it was going to be. So she must have pulled it up on a map. I was like, this is cool. She was absolutely right. So I took the phone out of my pocket, or out of the case, and I made the IRA app the foreground. For those of you that use the service, probably know that if you're not in the app, they can't see the camera. That's why she wasn't sure if she could hear me or whatever.
So you had the GPS open, not her.
I had nothing open.
Okay.
I wasn't using the GPS because, like I said, I've been there thousands of times. I knew exactly where I was.
So she was the voice coming from your chest,
Correct.
telling you her GPS that
Correct.
she was seeing. Gotcha.
She was seeing my GPS connection through the IRA app.
That's cool.
So I pull the phone out. I make the IRA app the foreground.
So you do that by going into the app switcher and just bringing her back up?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I stuffed it back into the case, and I was able to use the IRA agent to guide me to the door, which was really cool. Then when I got in there, she guided me to the pharmacy. And kind of the neat thing about that whole experience was I was still talking to her, and the person at the desk was like, "Can you sign this?" And I'm like, "Sure," right? So she hands me the pen, and I put the pen on the thing, and both the person and the IRA agent said, "Perfect, you can sign right there," which I thought that was really cool to have that confirmation that sighted person could tell me. I mean, it would have been fine without, but it was just a nice confirmation that it worked. And she was able to guide me to the chair. So when I sat down in the waiting area, the IRA agent was able to do that. Then I had my COVID shot. And then the funny thing is that I put the headset on and I called the IRA agent, and the headset, the earpiece was in my ear this time on the way back home. And I said, I need to find the front door, right? So his customer thought I was talking to him, and he goes, okay, I'll take you. So his customer helps me to the front door. I'm trying to talk to the IRA agent and the customer at the same time with one not really knowing that the other one was there, because I didn't want the customer to, if somebody else needed help,
Sure.
you want the customer to help somebody else and say, oh, well, and not
Well,
think,
yeah, and you want the customer to be hanging out waiting for his shot too, or whatever he's doing there,
Exactly. But he was helping me to the door. He probably had like a 15-minute appointment or whatever. It doesn't matter. But he was really nice. He would help me to the door, and I continued on my way. The funny situation about this coming back home with Ira is that the first thing I did was launch Blind Square, because I'm like, okay, I can do this again. I've done this before thousands of times. But I kind of mess up in this one part. If you don't shoot yourself off of the sidewalk in a certain direction at a certain angle, you could go in the total wrong direction to where I want to be. So I fired up Blind Square, and then I was still talking to the IRA agent, and we're just kind of talking. We're standing at this corner, and I'm waiting for the light to go, right? And the funny part is that I wasn't at the light. The agent says, there's no light here. And I'm thinking, there's been a light there forever, right?
No, wait. You've switched agents by now?
Yes.
Why do you have a different IRA agent now?
Because I didn't want to hang out with an IRA agent while I was getting the jab.
Yeah.
So I hung up with that first IRA agent. It took me, 5 or 10 minutes to get the thing when I'm talking to the pharmacist or what have you, and they're going through all the
Yeah,
side
you've got to
effects.
wait too, that 15.
You do. So there's no point in sitting there hanging out with an IRA agent, talking to an IRA
sure.
agent while I'm sitting in the waiting room going,
Yeah, time is money in terms of IRA, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no point. Although, if you tell them or doing something with COVID, you will get free time.
Ooh, good thing to know.
I don't know how much it is, but you will get free time.
Nice.
So each time I was doing something with COVID, I told them. And they're like, oh, okay. So I'm not going to complain with free time.
Mm-mm. So you're back in the street.
So I'm back in the street, right? And I'm waiting cycles to go. Cycles.
Because you're sure you're at this light.
I'm sure I'm at this light, right? So I cross the street, and I'm going in, basically to make a long story short, I'm going in the wrong direction. And the IRA agent goes, you're walking west down First Street, okay? I'm like, I'm not supposed to be in this direction. So it turns out that we did fix ourselves with the help of the agent, because they know where you live and they can plot a route to where you live. So he was able to guide me through getting myself all taken care of. What happened was, originally when I came out of the Rite Aid, I shot myself down the wrong part of the sidewalk.
Oops.
I wasn't on the street I was supposed to be on, that I thought I was on, and where I should have been. So that's why it was really weird, because we're like arguing. Well, not we're arguing, but we're saying, okay, there's supposed to be a light here, but there's not. So I thought that was kind of funny. I thought that was kind of cool. But the nice thing is that I got texts and I got email reminders and all this stuff telling me, when my appointment was and where my appointment was. And so it was a pretty accessible, usable experience. Now, I could have done it without Ira, but I thought that I would test it again, and it was a really, really cool experience.
The advantage you had with IRA was once you were in the door.
Yes.
That is a tremendous advantage, especially in a situation like that where you've got possibly insurance cards and you got to sign stuff and you got to get your vaccination card because, of course, that was your first time, so you were getting your card.
Right.
All these things you got to do.
Right. So that was fun.
That's cool.
And I had no side effects.
Yay for you! And you can tell by my tongue being firmly in cheek that I did from my first vaccine. By the time you listen to this, I will be fully vaccinated. When I got my first vaccine, now remember, I'm out in the country, and in terms of a statewide vaccine finder, I don't know that there is one currently in terms of up here in the western part of the state where I am. You can find them for certain counties. I know Mecklenburg County had one. Some of the more populated counties in the eastern part of the state absolutely had them. It kind of depends on where you are. I think even Buncombe County around here had one. But a lot of times what you do, or what you were doing, I don't know how it still is here, it may have changed in the last couple weeks, is that you find a spot that's offering them and you get yourself on a list. And then when you are eligible, or when there is vaccine available for you, then either you have to call them back and keep checking on it, or they will call you. Well, I got lucky because a friend of mine happened to be on Facebook, and she called me and she said, they have vaccine doses available at this place, and if you can go today, it's walk-in. You can just go. But if you can go Saturday, then you need to call. So I had the number already, and if I hadn't have had it, I could have looked it up online very easily for this particular venue. And I called, I spoke to a lady, she got my information, and before she and I were off the phone, I had texts confirming both my first and second vaccine appointments. So that was very cool. That was nice. As Chris said, those things are really helpful. So I immediately knew where I was going and when I was going. Now, the way mine worked is, of course, because I'm in the country, I had to go a long way. And for this particular venue, I went a little further than some of the venues around here. I went about half an hour away into a different county. But what I loved about it was a drive-through. So I didn't have to get out of the car for the whole experience, right? And I went with someone, and we were just going to spend the day, and we were going to shop, and we were going to do some other things while we were down there, while I was still feeling good. So my appointment was at 9, and by the time 9 hit, I was leaving because we got there early, and they just took me through. We were the second car through, and I was able to fill out the questionnaires and everything with the people there. I mean, they had an assembly line of people. You go through and you're working with these different people to fill out information, and then you're getting your vaccine, and then somebody else comes and tells you where to wait, and then in 15 minutes you can go, and they tell you precisely what time you can leave. So literally all I had to do was swing my legs out of the car to get it put in my left arm. I mean, it was a breeze, and I said, you guys have really got this thing just working like an assembly line. It's awesome. And it was. I mean, it was a really cool experience. We're recording this the day before my second vaccine, so I'm expecting a very similar, speedy, fabulous experience tomorrow to receive my second vaccine. So unlike Chris, there was no walking around for me. I didn't even have to get out of the seat of the car. So it was great. It was a really nice experience. Everyone was really friendly. They moved you through, and you were out of there. So it was just a great, easy experience. And I don't think I've gotten a text today as a reminder text to let me know that, hey, I in fact do have a vaccine appointment tomorrow, but I do, and I have that text still on my phone, so I can go find out precisely when it is. Although I suspect if it's anything like last time, I will be moving through earlier than I even have my appointment scheduled for, which would be awesome and amazing. But if not, I'm sure everything will be great and smooth and on time. And it was just a really great experience.
I didn't have an assembly line or anything really. I filled out, I got a lot of stuff online. They asked all kinds of questions at this Rite Aid.
You had a lot more questions than I did.
Yes. So that must have been what happened when I made my original appointment, because I just went in there and I was in there like 5 minutes and I was ready to go. I worked with one pharmacist. She stuck the needle in the arm, and it's, for those that don't know,
It's
it's
an
in
itty
your
bitty prick.
but it's in your shoulder.
Yes. You can have either shoulder you want.
I was thinking to myself that it would be in the elbow where they normally draw blood, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I warned him about that, but he didn't really believe me until he actually got it done. They tell you to wear short sleeves in
Yes.
many cases,
Yeah.
and you
I
really
had
should.
I had to remove my jacket because I was
Absolutely.
wearing a jacket because it was raining and cold. So I had to remove my jacket, but I did wear short sleeves underneath, so it did work out pretty well.
The injection itself, for those who haven't yet experienced it, it's a very light prick. At least most of us that I've talked to have experienced it as a very light prick. For me, I didn't start feeling any pain even in the shoulder for half an hour. And then everything began to get sore. But there was no pain at the time of the injection. I barely felt it.
I felt the pain in the arm for that first day. I mean, if you call that a side effect, I guess that's a side effect. But other than that, I didn't have any side effects. There were no chills or cold or vomiting or diarrhea or any of that stuff. That, they give you this whole list of things, and she rattled them off to me, and I'm thinking, oh, well, let's hope I can make it home.
They don't hit that fast. I did have significant chills. I froze all weekend after my first vaccine. I was really, really cold. And it was not a cold weekend. So that wasn't very fun. But I didn't start really experiencing any fatigue or anything till about 6 hours after my vaccine. And up until then, I was fine. But once I sat down, I've been on my feet for all that 6 hours. I was doing some baking, and I was doing some shopping and just random things. And when I actually sat down that afternoon after my first vaccine, though, I thought, ooh, I'm starting to feel gross. And I did for about 36 hours or so. I felt pretty nasty, but it went away as quickly as it came.
On April 1st of this year, basically a month ago, Kim and I had a private event that we invited a few people to, and we had an announcement. And this is the announcement that we were referring to in the last couple of podcasts.
Yes, we finally got it ready to share with all of you.
And there was a crowded castle.
There was a crowded castle. It was a happy crowded castle. It was a lot of fun.
So here's the origin story. Has anybody ever heard of a website called Blind Bargains?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've heard of it. I don't know much about it.
Sure
Okay.
have. Yeah.
So what you do is you put classifieds on Blind Bargains for people to buy and sell stuff. So sometime in 2011, I put a classified ad out because I was selling a bunch of assistive technology equipment, one of them being a Braille Blazer. So I get this email from this lady here, and she says, does this thing support Interpoint? And I said, no, it was built in 1991. What are you, nuts?
I was a little desperate at that point.
Probably just like that, too.
Yeah, that's probably about how he said it.
He was a real charmer in those days, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
totally, right? So my
So-
response was probably something like, LOL, well, okay, yeah, of course, now that you told me what it is, and now I'm actually paying attention. Yeah, okay. That should have been the end of the conversation.
Right. But in that original email, she also told me she was looking for a money reader, iBill. So for whatever stupid reason, I decided to save her email address, and it wasn't like I could blame Thunderbird because I wasn't using Thunderbird at the time, where it automatically saves email addresses and stuff. I made a conscious decision for some reason to put her email address in my address book, which is kind of weird. It's nothing I would have ever done. A couple months go by, there's an iBill that comes up, so I send her an email and I say, here's an iBill, go get it, right? So back and forth a few times, the iBills disappeared because other people got to them by the time she...
It became this massive joke. I'd go like 15 minutes after, get the email. They're like, yay, I can finally... No, what do you mean it's gone already? I mean, at the time, they were hugely popular. I was never getting the money I did fire. And I was just like, what is going on? So it became this joke, and I kept saying, whoops, that's another one gone.
So then I said to her, I says, why don't you just get yourself an iPod with Looktel and just to hell with the iBill? So that's what she did.
I think by then we had kind of gotten to know each other a little bit through some of these emails. And we both kind of knew that we each of us had kind of this warped sense of humor. So I knew he'd appreciate the story. And I was just like, hey, you want to laugh? Listen to what a crappy Valentine's Day date I almost had. So I was telling him the story. So the stream tutorial came out, and you guys know the story of MA and how things kind of began to progress from there. And I became part of the podcast, and it became a full-time gig for both of us by into 2015?
Yeah, 2016.
So basically, you think you're here because you're getting a Mystic Access announcement. And you are, because Mystic Access will be closing down only for about 3 weeks or so later this summer. But that is not the announcement. The announcement is why Mystic Access is closing down for 3 weeks later this summer.
Okay, so I'll just bluntly say it. Kim and I are getting married.
Woohoo!
I knew it!
Are
you really?
It's fantastic.
It's awesome!
That's great.
For the longest time, I thought you guys were married for the longest time, you know?
I was wondering when it was going to happen.
That's so awesome! Oh, this is wonderful! This is wonderful!
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for
Wow,
Thanks for telling us.
That is exciting, Chris and Kim.
Wonderful.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
thank you.
Wow,
Wow.
congratulations. That's so
Yeah,
amazing.
You know, I'm hoping that you're business people enough that we won't get an email tomorrow morning that it was in fact an April Fool's joke.
Oh my gosh.
You will lose a lot of customers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
We would have
keep
no
that in
friends
mind.
left.
I would just be crying.
It's not.
Well, you know, it's not. Yeah, I mean, we've learned enough about each other in 10 years.
Yeah, 10
think
years. Yeah.
You know, we know each other's secrets. We also know each other's flaws.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
we're mature enough to say, this is one of your flaws. This is one of my flaws.
Uh-huh.
You know, there's times where we're
You'll
just going to
find
walk
new
away.
ones, though, when you
Oh,
start
yeah,
sharing
sure.
a house.
Sure, we would. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
You'll
He's been a
already-
bachelor for far too long.
They'll kind of match up with the ones that you already know.
True. That
So,
makes sense.
Kim-
Both the good qualities and the bad ones will match up with things that you already
You'll
know.
balance.
Kim-
So, you know,
balances
it'll be
out.
things like, you know, who doesn't put things away or who let the toothpaste leak all over the counter, you know,
Exactly.
that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
fun stuff.
So Kim and Chris,
Yes.
Yeah.
as you know, I wanted to make this, and I said, John, could you record this for me? And he did, because I was on Radio Out of the Past.
Can you send it to us?
Yeah,
Oh, God.
sure.
Good.
Yeah, well, I was doing Radio Out of the Past, and I said, I can't not be there because I'm supposed to chair that. And it was so cool because we were talking about radio-related stuff, old-time radio, and John walks in and he says, hey, I got an announcement. I said, what's that all about? And he said, well, I'm listening to Kim and Chris, and he said, it turns out they're going to be closed for a little bit of July. I said, April Fools. And and he said, no, that's not it. He said they're going to be closed for 3 weeks because they're getting married, and the room erupted.
So, John, you want to speak into my microphone? What do you want?
Yeah, so I was in the other room listening to a Mystic Access announcement, and everybody knows Chris and Kim. Well, they have announced that Mystic Access will be closing down.
Oh. April Fool.
For about 3 weeks in the summer.
I knew it was going to happen.
Because they're getting married.
Fool.
Oh, my God, you're kidding. Oh, did you, Bob, you didn't hear that?
No, what?
Kim and, oh, my God, this is wonderful. Kim and Chris, it's closing down Mystic Access for 3 weeks during the summer because they're getting married.
Oh, I always wondered about those two.
Me
Now I know.
too.
Wonderful.
I never said
I want to
anything,
go to the
but I
wedding.
wondered. Oh, God.
I love it.
This is so cool.
It's the best. It took them long enough. Jeez.
Absolutely. How nice.
Two wonderful people. Absolutely. Great.
What a great story.
That's beautiful. Thanks, John, for
We
sharing
thought
that.
it was true that they were closing down forever.
Well, I knew that they
Anything,
would
I
do
fall
that.
for all these April Fool
Me
things,
too.
Joni.
Yeah.
That's the best news of 21.
It
we needed
is.
that. We needed that.
It is.
Because these are all people that you know for the most part. Yeah.
Awesome.
From Tech Talk and from Radio Out of the Past. Yeah.
Nice.
They were so excited.
Here.
Yeah.
Our thing was, as far as going to bed, man, it did happen sometimes. But then the best thing was to wake up the next morning for that wonderful makeup. Wake up.
Oh, those makeups are nice, yeah.
To me, what is so important, and I'm an old maid, is that the two of you are best friends.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
hopefully
That's so
that
important.
And
That is it.
I will tell you, my parents were married for 58 years, and they were the best. They courted 3 years before they got engaged, and they were the best of friends their whole lives long.
That was what kept my parents together for, it would have been 60 years if she had lived a little longer, and that was why. They were as in love when she died as they were when they married.
Yeah,
that's sweet.
Because if it's just, the romance can kind of ebb and flow.
Right, but the friendship should stay, hopefully, forever.
Well, but my
You'll be
mother always
fine.
said was there could be days that were just, especially when they found out that I'd never see, she said, it was the worst day of our lives. But she said, your father always could make me laugh. And be sure to make one another laugh.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the
Oh,
good
yeah.
things of our relationship.
It is. Yeah.
We're really goofy people.
Yep.
And
That's-
we're just ridiculous.
That's
Well,
how
what do they
some
say?
marriages
It's
are
not
built.
falling in love, it's about
Absolutely.
sticking in love.
Yep.
My fiance said he made a goal of making me laugh once every day. I don't even know why he made it a goal because it always happened anyway.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
decided it's a good goal, and so now I'm doing the same thing. So we make each other laugh every day.
There you go.
John, let's ask you to talk about what's going to be happening next week.
Next week, we're going to hear from a semi-regular and maybe his new fiance. We'll see if she shows up. For those who don't know, by the way, Chris Grabowski and Kim Loftus, who you've heard on this show many a time, announced their engagement last week, and they are going to be getting married later this summer, which we all are very happy to hear about. So if she lets him out of the house for next week, Chris will be here, and he'll be talking about Chromebooks. And then Kim has one coming up later I think in May.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing next week here on Tech Talk.
Thank you.
And Chris will be referred to as Chris Nova going forward.
Yes, he will. They're
Name.
both changing their names, and that's another story, but not necessarily to go
Too
into.
long to get into here, but Grabowski is not his right name, so he will be changing a name that they came up with and thought up, and you'll know them as Nova. It's Nova and Kim Nova in the future.
And if they have little kids, they'll be supernovas.
I knew somebody would get there sooner or later.
So you may have a few questions now that you know our surprise. And just to give you a few answers, because some of you know the answers to them anyway. You may have heard your voices in that crowded castle. We are getting married on August 11th, and we're getting married on the night that is the height of the Perseids meteor shower. And that's kind of a fun personal story for us. One of our first major conversations that we had that was really serious was all about what's out there, what's in the universe. And we found out very quickly that we both have a love of astronomy. And so we're getting married at the height of the meteor shower. And so hopefully we can enjoy some meteors on the evening of our wedding or in the wee hours after our wedding. So that will be super fun. So that's a Wednesday night if you want to think about us as we are walking down the aisle in August. So most likely what will happen is around August 1st, Mystic Access will close and will open back up maybe before the beginning of September, but maybe not until the beginning of September. We really haven't decided yet because we're going to be really busy that week or so, obviously prior to the wedding. And then once we get back, because we'll be flying to New York after the wedding, we're getting married here in North Carolina, and my parents are throwing us a wedding. And then we're going back to New York probably about 5 days or so after the wedding. So once we get back, obviously we want a little bit of time to chill because we're going to be tired. So we don't know yet when we'll actually be reopening. Certainly you have the ability to order anything while you're waiting. Just know that shipping may take a little longer if you're ordering physical hardware. Obviously, if you're ordering a non-physical product, a digital product, you can access it right away at any time. So please know that we will be slow to respond to phone calls, emails, things like that. It might take us a few weeks to get back in touch, but you'll know why and you'll know what we're doing. So it's going to be a busy time. It's going to be a fun time. We're really looking forward to it, and it's just been crazy and extra hectic around Mystic Access Land because now not only are we working together, we're also planning a wedding together. So hence the event we mentioned at the beginning of this episode about planning events. So we thought that was a really good topic for May because we have a lot of experience now that we can share with you.
Yes, and after the wedding, Kim will be taking the serious plunge of switching states.
Yes.
After September 1st, or whenever we have our free class for September, we will both be in the same house.
Yes, so when you hear that September class, we will be in the same house doing that class. Although, ironically enough, not in the same room. We'll be teaching the same way we always taught. In our offices, probably with our doors shut so that we don't hear any background from one another's mics. So that's kind of an irony about it. We will not be sitting on the couch teaching you guys class in most circumstances. That's just not how it's going to work. Now, it may happen occasionally, but it's going to be the rare exception and not the rule. So that's kind of a fun thing. And you may have heard at the end of this little announcement where they were discussing the fact that our name has changed. So please keep that in mind as well. Grabowski is no more. As of now, Chris is officially Chris Nova. And so, of course, in August, I will become Kim Nova.
Exactly. And the fun part about that is we're going back to the whole star thing in astronomy. So we picked out our name. So instead of taking one another's name or hyphening the name, we were trying to figure out the best way to come up with your own name. For example, in North Carolina, you can only take the other person's name and you can only hyphen the name. That's on the marriage certificate. In New York, you can take the other person's name, you can hyphen the name, and you can also scramble the letters.
I thought you could scramble in North Carolina too.
No, I don't think
No?
so. I believe that was kind of the weird one where you couldn't scramble in North Carolina. But if you had the right characters in each other's names, you could make something out of those names. I don't think Gratis would have been a good idea. So
No, it's not very good. There wasn't anything really fun from one another's names where we could make a cool name. We sat there and tried for about an hour and then we gave up.
yeah, I was like, no, this isn't going to work. And it wouldn't have mattered anyways because we're doing it in North Carolina. So, but what we did was legally change the name to Nova. I did, and it's legally done, but there's still some red tape that we need to go through to get it officially done.
For everything.
Right. It's not a hard process. I was actually amazed on how easy and inexpensive it was.
One of the cool things about the internet age is that now there is a service for everything. And you actually found a service that helped you do this even easier.
Yes. So what happens for those that are interested, and I think this is kind of cool. It might interest
Yeah, it's an
some
interesting concept. Yeah.
So what you do is you go down to the courthouse of your county. For me, it was the Supreme Court. And you fill out paperwork to get your name changed. I had found a service online where I could fill out this paperwork electronically. They mailed the paperwork to me. Everything was all filled out. And I took it to the clerks. And I filed the paperwork and the fees. So the next step is you wait for the judge to approve the name change. Now, there are some things you can't have. You can't have obscenities in your name. You can't swear in your name. You can't be a punctuation mark, so I'm not exactly sure how Prince did it. But there's some things that you just can't do. They will reject you. They will also reject you if they think you're a crook. And you better believe they do background checks on you to make sure that you're not trying to run from anybody. So once that's approved by the court, you then have to put it in a paper of their choice. They tell you what paper, at least in New York, I guess it's for public records, you're supposed to put it in a paper. And they tell you what paper to put it in. So that was kind of cool. And the nice thing about, again, the internet age was that for the paper, I was able to send all of the documentation via email by utilizing Ira to snap photographs of the court order and the other things that I needed in order to prove to the paper that, yes, this is legit. Because they have to send something back to you that says, yes, this is legit. And then you go back down to the county clerk's office with that paper and that affidavit that says, yes, this is legit. Once that's done, it's done.
Then you have to do fun stuff like change it with Social Security and stuff like that, which is what you're in the process of doing now.
Right. So you have to get a new Social Security card with the new name on it, and then you have to go to the DMV and get your state ID. It's all easy stuff.
It's all easy stuff. None of it takes very long. It's just all the little I's that you have to dot and T's you have to cross to make it happen.
Right.
Let's go back to Ira one more time briefly before we end. Ira has been a godsend in planning this wedding. I don't even know how else to say it. We have literally done everything from pick out our rings to pick out our videographer using Ira agents. It has been unbelievable.
The funny thing about the rings, again, let's go back to the astronomy thing. Our rings, and I'm quite proud of this, they have meteorites in them.
They have meteorites in them. They're cool.
And they glow, allegedly.
They glow, yeah. They are very cool. Everyone who's seen them has freaked out because they do not look like your traditional wedding band. And they are very, very cool. And for anyone who's interested, my engagement ring that is sitting on my finger as we record this is a mystic topaz. So we're not doing anything really traditional in terms of a lot of this wedding preparation. So when I put my engagement ring out in the sun, it flashes blue and pink and purple, and it's kind of amazing. So it's a color change stone. It's not a natural stone. Basically, the way you get mystic topaz is you take a topaz that isn't necessarily so attractive, just a standard topaz, and you put titanium in it, and it becomes this magical color change stone, kind of like an opal or moonstone. It's really cool. So we spent probably 2-3 hours with Ira picking an engagement ring, because we picked the wedding rings first, and then we picked an engagement ring to go with the wedding bands. So it has been such a process, and a lot of the IRA agents know us now. They're like, "Oh, there's one of the fiancés calling to do something," you know. So it's been a lot of fun in terms of that, but that really has been a godsend. Being able to do that without waiting on somebody who would probably have a definitive opinion, like someone in our families, you know, being able to pick just based on helpful comments from agents and descriptions from agents has been awesome. Really great.
Yeah, and the funny thing, if you're curious, we would do it with TeamViewer and an IRA agent, and I would call Kim on the iPad using FaceTime. Then I would grab my iPhone and I would call an IRA agent, and I would put the two next to each other so that one can hear the other one, and nobody has had a problem with hearing each other. And I thought that that was kind of a unique way to do it, because that way we're both involved.
And that's been great because we're currently 700 miles apart. And so being able to do all this stuff together has made wedding planning way more seamless. A lot of times the wedding really becomes the bride's domain, and sometimes the groom's like that and sometimes they don't. But we really both want to be involved. And even with stuff like picking the rings. You know, obviously that's something that's important for both of us to have some say in terms of what things are, especially in the wedding bands. So it's been really fun to be able to have almost every facet of this done together, aside from my dress, which was pretty much my domain. But aside from my dress, everything was done together. And speaking of my dress, Chris can tell you one other cool, very non-traditional thing I did after I bought my dress, which was just a week ago.
She texted me a picture of it. And she said, if you want someone to describe it to you, call an IRA agent and let them describe it to you. So that's really cool. I mean, again, that's non-traditional. The groom's not supposed to see the dress until, obviously, the bride comes out and starts walking down the aisle.
But you couldn't see the dress when I was walking down the aisle.
Right.
It wasn't going to be the same experience for you. So I thought, you know, he might as well have some ideas what's swishing down the aisle toward him in terms of this dress. It was important that he have some idea about that. And if we decide that we're going to do some kind of first look or, you know, a moment prior to the wedding, which we might, that'll give you an idea too.
Right.
There's still some stuff that's in the planning stages. We still have 3 months. That's scary. But yeah, a lot has happened already, and it's just May. And so there's a lot still to do, but there's a tremendous amount that's already been done, and that helps a lot with the stress level.
Let us mention one more thing regarding this wedding if you're not sick and tired of hearing us. At the end of June, I will be flying down to North Carolina to spend about 6 days together. Mystic Access again will be kind of closed during that time frame. So we'll remind you as the time passes when that actually is.
Yeah, we'll let you know as we get closer to the date. A lot of you have also asked us about registries, things like that, and we really, really appreciate that. It's very sweet that people want to contribute to our special day. We will be having a registry available, but currently it's not public yet because we got to finish it. So it'll probably be another week or two before that is available. We will let you guys know.
Yes, we have to find things to put on it. You know.
We have to find things to put on. The advantage of a wedding at our stage of life, because we are not 20-somethings, either of us, is that we have built up a substantial amount of stuff, for better or worse. And a lot of that can easily be incorporated into a joint household. So the stuff we need, we're going to have to think about, you know, pretty significantly. There's some stuff like sheets and towels and stuff that's kind of obvious that we'll absolutely make sure is on the wedding registry, and some of which already is. But for some other things, we're having to think about it and try and figure things out. So there's definitely some stuff we still need to put on there and make it a little more full than it is now.
It was kind of funny because a friend of mine told me, because he knew this was coming up, and he says, you know what you need to do? I says, what? He says, you need to rent a dumpster. So I thought, okay, well, that's a really good idea. So I rented a dumpster and had a dumpster in the driveway for, 9 or 10 days,
9 or 10
something
days,
like that. Yeah. And here I am going through each room, getting rid of 20 years worth of junk, quite frankly. I mean, some of the boxes that I got rid of, they were in the basement and they weren't even opened since I moved here.
You had more junk than I do. I don't have a lot of junk. I've got some. I don't have a lot. So it's going to be interesting to see how this packing goes, because not only do I have to plan the wedding, I have to pack a significant amount of stuff. So that's going to be lots of fun to pack. And then I think what's going to happen is that my parents are going to drive up to Western New York a couple months or a month or 6 weeks or something after the wedding and just bring me a bunch of stuff. So that will be helpful. So that first 6 weeks will be a little strange because I'll essentially be living out of a suitcase.
Exactly.
But that's okay.
So thank you, everybody, for listening to us ramble. And we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you enjoyed the reveal. I know that the people in our crowded castle really did enjoy the reveal. I don't know how she did it, but she took 2.5 hours of fun for the engagement party and took the best of and put it into 10 or so minutes.
It was fun. I just got lucky. I found all the stuff I wanted to make sure was in there pretty quickly and put this together, and I loved putting it together. My mom called me. We sent links to our mom's, streaming links to the audio. My mom called me and she said, I've listened twice and I've cried twice. So, it's sweet. So we hope those of you who were at the reveal enjoy this abridged public version. And of course, we thank you for being there. This would not have been the night it was without you guys. It was just super special. And we're looking forward to continuing this planning of now the rest of our personal lives in addition to our professional lives together.
Exactly. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
The preceding podcast is a presentation of Mystic Access, where the magic is in learning. If you are blind or visually impaired and desire to discover how our comprehensive products and services may support and empower your assistive technology journey, we welcome your visit at www.mysticaccess.com. Have a question or wish to place an order via phone? Call us at 716-543-3323. If you have something to share about this podcast episode, press 4 to reach our Mystic Access podcast comment line. Email us at info@mysticaccess.com. Connect with us on Twitter at twitter.com/mysticaccess and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/mysticaccessempower. Would you like to spread the word about our podcasts? Your friends and colleagues may listen and subscribe at www.mysticaccesspodcast.com. If you enjoy our episodes, consider leaving us an iTunes rating and review. Your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks for spreading the word, and thanks for being a listener. We hope you enjoyed this episode.